like we did with the previous two paragraphs, we'll do a quick read through for just kind of grammar stuff, and then maybe we'll put them all together and look at them as a whole. And then while you were writing, there were a couple notes I made. I feel like every time I reread things, I catch something new. So there's a couple other things I want to talk about in the first two paragraphs. But for now, we'll just do a quick look through at this one. I do want to say I love this first line. It's not only, I think it does a really good job of, like you were talking about, and like we've talked about before, like just capturing the essence of what the paragraph will be, and really guiding the reader and saying sort of, this is what you're about to experience, you're about to read about. And it also, I don't know, like if you see this too, but it has it feels way more alive. There's just something about the rhythm and the way that you use the words that I love. It has this, the efficiency of technology leaves us with the sense that something is missing. Is a really beautiful. So I just wanted to point that line out. That's a great, whenever there's a good line, I always want to point it out. I would say that it may be better to say that it leaves us with the sense that something is missing. I think that would work better in this instance. I'm trying to think, like, from a lot of the work that I've done in writing is like really, I try and look at rhythm a lot and sound a lot. And I think in that sense of something missing is better. It's like sounds better and is rhythmically better, but I don't know if it's something.
It has a different meaning, or it's just like the correct way?
It wouldn't change the meaning at all.
Okay.
It would make it more clear, I think, is what I'm trying to say. Like okay. I think what you have here from a grammatical sense works, but it's kind of unclear.
Yes.
So, if we change it to the sense that something is missing, it'll make it a lot more clear for the reader. Okay, so during the pandemic, AI helped people struggling with anxiety, offering a safe and affordable solution. So on this one, I think we would want a comma between anxiety and offering. Those are two kind of distinct clauses. And if we were to read it out loud, there's kind of...
I see that, like, the people with struggling with anxiety offer.
Yeah. We need like a break there so that it's clear that it's the AI that's offering the safe and affordable solution. Does that make sense? Do you see that there?
Yes. Cool. Yes.
Okay. And then but sometimes what people really needed was human connections. And I think this would be better, not plural, just singular. Or people needed were. This is one of those tricky ones. Remember I talked about subject-verb agreements last time?
Yes.
This is a situation, this is one of those like weird instances where it's not super clear. I think it would be So we have a singular verb here, right? Was, like the past tense singular.
Yeah,
And we're talking about
people.
group, yeah, like a plural group of people. So I think a better what would you use here if that were the case?
Where?
Where, yeah, exactly. And then because we have the plural group of people and we have the plural verb, then this makes more sense as a plural. Cool. Having
face-to-face.
Yeah, you would need this here. Having face-to-face therapy helps to create a bond with the therapist. And this we would want to use, I think, which here. Instead of what.
When you have to use which and when you have to use what?
Oh, it's a good question, and I don't know how, if I can answer that off the top of my head without like sitting down with my grammar book to kind of look at it. But I think are you comfortable if I like look into that a little bit and then we talk about it more? Because I think that there are pretty clear case uses, you know, or use cases for each one. But I'm not. I want to read about it a little bit.
Okay.
Some of this stuff is hard to come up with on the fly, like these grammar rules. But I'm gonna make a note to look into that, and we'll talk about it maybe tomorrow.
Okay.
But let's switch. Cool. AI still struggles with empathy and is not able to identify when the patient is not being honest. Cool. So now there were a couple things, I guess, like before we squash all these together, because this is still the introduction, right? This is kind of the third section of the intro.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is great. I mean, that like the more that you write, the more we have to talk about and the more things come up. So in that sense, it's wonderful. And again, it's like, it's always easier to take stuff away. And as we continue to do these, like the way I like to edit is just every time I pass through the piece over and over and over, and every time I pass through, I try and take a little more away. Mm-hmm. So then hopefully, like when you're left with an essay, it's nice and like tight.
Yes.
So something that as I was reading through this again today, two things kind of came up. One, I wanted to ask about like your use of first or second person here.
Okay.
Because if we look at this, we're in first person here in the first sentence, right? We have this we, and then we switch to second.
Yes.
And I think we're in second person all the way down here. This is all second person. And then we are in first here. Oh, wait. This is first. And then I think we switch to third here, it looks like. So I think it would be good, like it's okay sometimes to shift person or shift kind of the point of view, like in a work. I think that in this instance, it might help with clarity for the reader and just for our own, to keep track of things if we just choose one and stick with it. Because it carries, like, do you um, I know a little bit of Spanish, but I'm not super familiar with like how point of view works in Spanish. You have a similar like first, second, third person, right?
Yes.
And they use like for in English, the second person is very like conversational, kind of
Yes.
casual, right?
Yes, it's the same
Mm-hmm.
in Spanish.
Yeah. So you can kind of think about like, is this is when we get back into the question of that it's good to ask ourselves a lot, like who's my audience? Who am I writing this for? I could imagine if you're writing this for, in our case, we just kind of have to make up an audience because we're practicing this together. But if you're writing it for maybe for like teenagers who have been struggling with stuff and are curious about AI therapy, you could use a second person, like more informal tone. If you're reporting on something, it could be third person or first person, kind of. It feels more formal.
Okay. Yeah. And for example, the opinion columns should be in second person.
I don't think they need to be necessarily. I think that I've seen a lot of good opinion columns in all points of view.
Okay.
I think that something that second person allows the writer to do is create like a sense of intimacy with the reader.
Mm-hmm.
That like you're speaking directly to the reader and it can feel really personal. And a lot, like I've read a lot of opinion pieces I've read about maybe social justice issues are often in second person. Some of the really powerful ones can be in second person because it's such a like an emotional thing that the writer you can use it sort of like a tool. How much do I want to get at my reader? So they don't always have to be in second.
Okay.
I mean, since we're like coming up with an imaginary audience for this, and you've written most of it in second person, then it's probably fine like that.
It's better to leave it.
Yeah. And you could, like, I think having 2 points of view is okay. The main reason I wanted to talk about it is because we had all 3, and it was a little like a little confusing. I think if you did second and third person, that could work well, where you're kind of like, you talk to the reader a little bit and there's this relationship, and then you step back and you say, like during the pandemic, AI helped people struggling with anxiety, and it kind of takes on a more like distant tone. Does that sound good?
Yes, it's like it depends on what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's
Yeah.
giving examples, well, not examples, but explaining a situation, it's more like an outsider point of view. And trying to make a point, it's more about connection. So it's better if it's second person.
Yeah, I think it comes down to like how you want to say it. It's like if there are 100 different ways you can ask someone to wash the dishes. You could just say, wash the dishes, or say, hey, would you wash the dishes? And each one kind of carries its own meaning with it. And it's up to you as the writer or the speaker to kind of determine how you want to say something, but they're all correct. I think
Okay.
that's the point. And what I'm talking about when I say like let's keep it to either one or two points of view is just for clarity, just
Yes.
to make the reader have an easier time.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so yeah, maybe like focus, maybe just keep it second person primarily. And then if you want to dip into third to kind of give more perspective or history or something, that can work too.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, like a larger thing, is tense. I noticed, I missed this last time we talked, but there were a couple times where we had a shift in tense. Oh, now watch, I won't be able to find it again. I think the only, so we have, it looks like this is all present. And then we have,
Pass.
it looks like these two are past. Yeah, and then we're back to the present. So again, like approaching this from, this conversation about clarity, like it's okay to change tenses. And you did it, in a way that's like, it's a very clear block. But I think when we just have almost the entirety of the writing is in present tense, and then we have two past tense sentences.
Yes.
I wonder if there's a way to
Transfer.
Yeah, like maybe we can think about switching those or rewriting them in a way that's that is in the present.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, we got about 15 minutes. Maybe do you want to talk just kind of now that it's all together? I think this to me feels like a strong intro. Do you feel similarly? Like, what are your thoughts kind of seeing it all together like this?
Yes, it's the longest intro I have ever written.
Yeah.
But I think it has like a clear first approach of what the essay is going to be about. It gives you context, it explains you the main problems, and it's general but about the topic. So then we can talk about these without that's more specific.
Yeah.
And it will help you to have all the information to make like your own opinion about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's great. I never thought I will be able to write so much.
It's great. Yeah. I think probably the next step is to like go through and try and look for, kind of the next stage of editing is to go through and make sure everything is flowing okay and agreeing with each other. And I imagine that there are many sentences that we could like shrink down or just take out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what I saw today is that like I was going to write a very long and boring sentence. And I was struggling with, I think it's I don't remember which one was, but I was writing a terrible sentence and I keep reading it multiple times. And
Mhm.
then I decided to erase it and make it simpler.
Yeah.
And it was easier. Like I could identify those parts where I was like writing very confusing sentences.
Mm.
And I was able to, like, not too fast, but I could now I could see where I had like this opportunity to make more clear
Mm.
statements.
Yeah.
Um, and that was cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that like I love you bringing that up. That's wonderful that you're experiencing that. I think something that will happen, you know, right now it's it can feel like we're spending a lot of time, you know, on the editing and kind of talking about this sentences at a really this tiny level. But what will happen is as we continue to talk about it and as you continue to work, that stuff like you just experienced will kind of become intuitive, and
Yeah.
you'll do it, and then all of a sudden, you know, maybe in a year or in 2 years, you'll write something that, whoa, I don't really need to edit this much because it just came out like it just came out well.
Yes.
That's awesome that you're already kind of starting to experience that.
Yes. It was great because like sometimes I finish the sentence, but I don't like it, and I don't know why I don't like it. I
Mm,
know it's confusing, but I struggle finding the correct words to say what I want to say. And right now I was doing the same, like writing this sentence that at the end was having no sense.
mhm.
I erase it and make it smaller, and it was so much better.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Um, cool. Yeah, so I think that there are spots in here where we can definitely like make things work better and be tighter. Um, and we talked maybe with the time we have left, we'll talk. I know we talked about we sort of looked at this transition right here at the between these two paragraphs, and I'm curious to do the same right here. Um, do you feel like these two paragraphs like fit together? Uh, either ideally they would flow into each other, but they could also just sit well together. Do you have what are your thoughts on that?
Mm, no, I think they don't match. They don't completely match because the previous paragraph ends with like the benefits of, well, what text therapy is. And
And also, like, just to briefly add, like it ends with the benefits, and also it's a very specific.
yes,
It's talking about this, like,
go back to technology.
yeah, yeah. Mhm. Um, so how do you think that we could fix that? What do you think would make like would you want to shrink that sentence down or change it or add a new one?
Mm, I think that the second paragraph, the two last paragraphs don't really don't have a closure sentence.
Mm.
So it leaves it like that. And maybe a small closure sentence in both cases can help like to have this smooth transition. And yes, because at the end it ends with text therapy.
Yeah,
But
right. Yeah.
doesn't go back to the main topic that was technology in the mental health care.
Yeah.
So it should, maybe a small sentence could work to close the topic and introduce the next one.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic. Like I completely agree. I think the same thing for the third paragraph too. That if we kind of think about like each paragraph needs to be its own little package, right? And then the three of them together need to be their own little package. So we can kind of think of like, at the end down here that there should be something here that references this beginning. Like we want to have this, it's kind of I don't know if you're familiar with those little dolls that like the wooden things that like sit inside each other and you take it apart and there's a smaller one. It's kind of that same sort of thing.
Yes.
And yeah, so that would be like, if you have time to work on this between now and next time, those are a couple of things you could think about, like how to have sentences that wrap those up. And then we can start moving on to the next section, like the body paragraph.
Yes. I am going to write those two sentences and I'm going to try to write something for next class.
Great. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, it is also nice to I think, like as much as you can write, like we'll have more to talk about. I think today worked really well. It seemed like we had plenty to chat about.
Yes.
So however much you're able to do is okay.
Great.
And I'm going to look into your question about what versus with, and kind of we'll talk about the differences there.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions before we close out?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope that you have a nice evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye, Maria.
Bye.